Hello and welcome to a Friday Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are together here for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. And not just any ordinary Friday. It's not a football Friday. It's not the round of 64 Friday. But how sweet it is. A Sweet 16 Friday live right here on TEL. We recap Major League Baseball's opening day. We look back on the opening night of the Sweet 16 at the 2024 Men's NCAA Tournament. Set the stage for night number 2 of this second weekend. The Women's Tournament into the action here into the second weekend as well as of this Friday. Down the home stretch in the NBA, a Sweet 16 Friday. A jam-packed Friday, Donnie Rightside, over these next 3 hours.
Ready to go. Our only goal today, Ben, is to set the people up and let them know exactly what is going to take place on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to prep them for the weekend. And an unbelievable weekend it will be with college basketball in full swing. The Titans are moving on. Major upsets could they be? And also, Major League Baseball opening day yesterday had some sizzle out there as well.
Had some fast games, too, to start off a new Major League Baseball season. Thank you to the pitch clock. It is working very well in MLB. 4 more key matchups last night to open the second weekend of the 2024 Big Dance. We go dancing once again. The madness returns. But after an opening weekend, Donnie, where the madness wasn't truly there, not those historic upsets that we had seen in years past, we both said, give it some time, because this second weekend, starting with the Sweet 16 Thursday, was going to be incredible basketball. We welcome in our SportsGrid radio audience here, our opening hour of a Friday Live right here on the early line, Sirius XM Channel 159. All of our radio terrestrial affiliates now in the fold as well. He is Donnie. I am Ben. A recap of Sweet 16 Thursday night and the 4 marquee matchups we had. And they were 4 great games. Well, 3 really good and competitive games decided by a single digit, and then UConn continues its domination. But we start with the game of the night in Los Angeles. It was the nightcap in the West region, North Carolina and Alabama. Grant Nelson, welcome to the show. 24 points, 12 boards, 5 blocks to lead the Crimson Tide to their first Elite 8 appearance in 2 decades. The first time Alabama dances into the Elite 8 since 2004, holding off North Carolina, coming back in the final 60 seconds, 89-87. Alabama wins outright as a 4.5-point underdog.
You take a look at UNC yesterday. We talked about it for the past couple of days. The highest ticking count on any favorite by far this weekend was going to be on North Carolina, and they lost that game. Direct correlation? Maybe some would think so. But if you are the NCAA, you just said it, Ben. You led this off. The marquee game of the night. They don't give a damn about ratings, the NCAA, because myself here, I'm supposed to handicap this game, which I did yesterday. Looked forward to watching it. I didn't watch 1 second of it. I didn't even make it up until the game actually tipped off. And for the kids out there that are Carolina fans, Alabama fans, or college basketball fans, that's a shame. You'll be watching the replay this morning after a sensational game. What the hell's the NCAA doing, man? What a wreck.
Yeah, listen, the scheduling wasn't great, but we knew it was going to be late for a few weeks leading up to Thursday night. Donnie, we can't appreciate a great basketball game without talking how you were in sleep earlier before the game even ended. Well, I hope you caught the finish, because it was sensational. North Carolina was up by 1, 85-84, and then inexplicably, the senior, Jalen Withers, hoists a 3 with about 15 seconds left on the shot clock. It doesn't go down. Alabama gets the rebound, and Grant Nelson comes the other way and scores the go-ahead bucket for the Crimson Tide. A 24-point, 12-rebound, 5-block performance where he hit both of the triples he attempted. And, oh, by the way, it closes the highest total we had seen in the last 25 years in the NCAA tournament at 174.5. And the pace was there to push us over. Alabama into its first Elite 8 in 2 decades. Clemson into the Elite 8 as well. They continue to pull outright upset after outright upset. All 3 games for Brad Brownell's Tigers here in the Big Dance. They have been booked as the underdog, and they have won outright. Clemson sends the 2 seed in the West region packing upsets in that portion of the bracket as Clemson knocks off Arizona 77-72. The Tigers win outright as a 6.5-point pregame underdog.
What a novel concept. Start a game in the 7 o'clock hour. We all enjoy it, watch it all the way through, and it's a great game and something that we probably anticipated yesterday, Ben. As I told you, take the points with the Clemson Tigers because we know Arizona is always due for one of these games. Like they should have the talent to take on UConn and go toe-to-toe. But we've seen many games this year for Arizona where it's like, why isn't the talent matching up? And for the people out there, Ben, my favorite last night on social media, why is Arizona settling for the 3-point shot? Well, if you listen to Ben and Donnie in the morning, we told you Clemson is going to give you a 3-point shot. It's a matter if you make the 3-point shot, and they didn't make the 3-point shot. Therefore, Clemson, attack of the ACC, is now on its way to the Elite Eight.
5 of 28 from 3-point range last night was Arizona. Caleb Love now plays for Arizona. He was 0 for last night from deep, 0 for 9. His former backcourt mate at UNC, R.J. Davis, also 0 of 9 from deep. Something did not work for them in Los Angeles. Clemson into the Elite Eight for the first time since 1980, just the second ever time in program history. Playoff, postseason play between Clemson and Alabama. That sounds like it's the college football playoff now in the Elite Eight on Saturday night in Los Angeles. Connecticut, meanwhile, continues to be dominant in the big dance. We fire around here, DRS. UConn wins by 30, knocking off San Diego State in the national championship game rematch, 82-52. UConn wins and covers as an 11.5-point favorite. And in the game of the night in Boston, Illinois holds off Iowa State. The Illini into the Elite Eight for the first time since 2005. Tightly contested game. Illinois prevails 72-69. They win outright as a short 1.5 underdog.
Boy, oh boy, setting up a game that is going to be unbelievable this weekend when you take a look at UConn versus Illinois in Boston, and away we go. Two fantastic basketball teams here. And by the way, Terrence Shannon Jr., 29 points, clutch, so many breakaway dunks. I was watching there on the highlights. It was really impactful there. I liked what I saw at Illinois, but I can't stand the fact that I lost my Iowa State future. It is what it is. Let's go, Houston. Let's go, Creighton.
Terrence Shannon Jr., 29 points in 5 of 10 from the free throw line. Illinois as a team, 15 of 29. More around the big dance in just a moment. The team that normally plays inside TD Garden on the road the last 2 nights in Atlanta, and it hasn't been good. The Celtics, a 16.5-point favorite, lose outright in overtime to the Atlanta Hawks, 123-122. DeJounte Murray, a career best 44 points. Again, the Hawks win outright as a 16.5-point dog. And then quickly around Major League Baseball's opening day, the Yankees come back to knock off the Astros. Juan Soto shines and throws out a runner at the dish to end the game. And the Arizona Diamondbacks absolutely hammer the Colorado Rockies. They scored 14 runs in the 3rd inning at home in Phoenix. Plenty more for Major League Baseball's opening day, but now we go dancing around the 2024 Men's NCAA Tournament, Sweet 16 Thursday. A recap next.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood. Say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live. Prime time.
Back-to-back just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live. Overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Sweet 16 Thursday night, the opening night of the second weekend of the 2024 Men's NCAA Tournament. A recap live right here on this Friday morning on the early line. We start with the national championship game rematch, the opening game of the night inside TD Garden. So Donnie Rightside was up and watching, and it was another blowout and dominant performance out of the reigning national champs, the Connecticut Huskies. The 1 seed in the East region rolls to a 30-point blowout win over San Diego State. Last year's national runner-ups see a similar fate to what they saw last year in the national title game in Houston. UConn was a pregame 11.5-point favorite. They had no trouble covering that line. It was the largest spread of the Sweet 16 in any of the 8 games. It was the only one in double digits, and yet again, Connecticut covers the line. DRS 9 wins for UConn in their last 2 trips now to the NCAA tournament. 6 games last year, ending in a national title. 3 games so far this year that have led Connecticut into the Elite 8. They are a perfect 9-0 against the spread, covering by an average margin of 13.5 points per game. Just their average margin of victory for Dan Hurley's Huskies is nearly 23 points per game. Dominance doesn't even really begin to describe what the Huskies are doing in the big dance.
No, it doesn't. And there's an old saying that goes, if you're scared, get a dog. Ben, I have 2 dogs, and I'm still scared to death of the UConn Huskies blasting away in this tournament and knocking down one of my futures one by one. So I still have 2 futures left in here, but the whole point of me not betting UConn was somebody help me out, Ben, and knock off the UConn Huskies. We knew it was their advantage, right? We knew it all along. You're going to come in, you're going to pick the region. We want to be in the East, which meant, again, you're going to be playing in that regional games against higher level competition, but basically in your home gym, as you saw last night. And even though San Diego State opened this game like, hey, we're game for this. We have an early lead. I'm like, ooh, this could be a good one. You just see the talent level come at you in waves from UConn. They do everything great. Defense, offense, 3-point shooting, take care of the basketball, don't foul. It's unbelievable how they hit you because San Diego State is a very good basketball team. They want to slow it down and play the same pace as you do, but somehow against a top 10 efficient defense in the country, UConn still walks to 82 points here. It's amazing. Now, we'll talk about who they're going to match up with next round, which I think is going to be so much fun to watch. But right now, if anybody's been watching UConn over the past, let's just even say month and a half, like, you know what? They're really vulnerable. They can get beat. You're just praying on it. And what I'm doing, Ben, I'm praying on somebody might be able to play a perfect game against UConn. Not even to beat them, just to hang on down the final 2-3 minutes of the game.
Maybe just cover a number at this point. Again, Connecticut is a perfect 9-0 against the spread. They have won their 9 games, of course, then outright, all 9 by at least 13 points, with an average margin of victory of 22.8 points per game. This was the national championship game rematch, where San Diego State lost by 17 in the title game a year ago and got blown out by even more last night inside TD Garden and in Boston. And, Donnie, when you look at Connecticut, I think you brought up a great point. How do you beat this UConn team? I'm not sure you can. There is a team out there that might be able to keep pace. I don't know what that team looks like. I don't know what their matchup advantage is, if any. I don't know what the game plan would be to beat UConn. Could it happen in the Elite Eight, in the Final Four, in a national championship game? Sure. Would I predict it and tell you this is the time the Huskies get stopped? Not at this moment. When you look at the balanced scoring effort last night out of the starting lineup for Dan Hurley's Huskies, Cam Spencer, the Rutgers transfer, 18 points to lead the way. Tristan Newton, 17 points, 7 boards, 4 assists. He does it all. Even Steph Castle, the young freshman, 16 points and 11 rebounds. UConn easily covers as an 11.5-point favorite. San Diego State only scored 21 points in the final 20 minutes in that second half. Pre-game total of 137 and a hook. Did stay under. UConn, by the way, under in all 3 of its games so far in the big dance. Now we go to the nightcap in Boston, where UConn was awaiting to see who would win that basketball game, and they could start the early scout. Inside TD Garden, it was the game of the night in our estimation, DRS, and it lived up to the hype in terms of how competitive the game was going to be. The best offense in the country, Illinois, against the best defense in the country, Iowa State. The Cyclones closed as a very short 1.5 favorite. 10 cents of difference, DRS, on the money line. Minus 115 for the Cyclones. Minus 105 on the other side for the Illini. Pre-game total, 146.5. It wasn't really the offense that won the day for Illinois. It was a really good defensive performance against Iowa State. Total stays under 146.5, and Illinois wins outright, 72-69. The Illini keep dancing in the Elite Eight for the first time since 2005. This is their first trip to the second weekend since 2005. They keep it rolling now to an Elite Eight appearance against UConn.
Most efficient offense versus the most efficient defense yesterday. Wanted to see how that would play out, and quite frankly, we probably expected a game that was going to be decided either way by 3, 4, or 5 points. It's a nice win for the Illini here because you are on the road. You are taking on a great defense here, and you're expecting your shots to go down. They weren't wonderful, Ben, on offense. 42% as a team, 31% from the three-point line, and in a close game, if you would have told me before, they're going to shoot 15 of 29 from the free throw line, they probably get beat in this game. Now, good for Illinois. They got out to that double-digit lead, but in the second half, Iowa State closed that gap to within 2 points, but just couldn't come any closer to tie it up or get that momentum to get over the top. Because as you know, you use all that gas and energy just trying to get back into the basketball game where that final hurdle is tying it or taking the lead. They weren't able to do that here. It was a great game all the way through to watch it play out, but you need superstars to come up big at this time of year. And you take a look at Shannon Jr., 10 of 19 from the floor, 4 of 10 from three-point range. Didn't have a great night, as you already pointed out, from the free throw line, but 29 points against an elite defense. That's something here. This offense is very, very good, and I look forward to them taking on UConn. Should be a competitive game, even if the odds makers don't think so.
Terrence Shannon Jr. also in foul trouble for a good portion of that second half and still ends with 29 points where he was 5 of 10 from the charity stripe. He still is the first Illini player in that program's history to score 25 or more points in 3 consecutive NCAA tournament games. He had 30 against Duquesne over the weekend in the round of 32. He had 26 in the opener against Morehead State. Terrence Shannon Jr. making history for Illinois. Again, they were 15 of 29 from the free throw line as a team. That's less than 52% as a team. If they hit 5 or 6 more free throws, this game might have been out of hand at certain points and definitely down the stretch, but the Cyclones keep it tight. Illinois this year, though, as an underdog, now 5-2 against the spread. They have won 4 of those games outright. It did snap a 5-game over streak for the most efficient offense in the country, just the 3rd under for the Illini in their last 18 games. So now we set the stage for Saturday night. It is the opener in Boston. It will tip just after 6 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow inside TD Garden. It's the 1 seed in the reigning national champs, Connecticut, against the 3 seed in the East region, Illinois. And it's an 8.5-point spread in favor of Dan Hurley's Huskies. Again, those odds makers, DRS, they believe in Connecticut, and frankly, who could fault them?
No, exactly. It's basically a home game as well. I love what I've seen out of Illinois, but it just seems like you have to play that perfect game. Now, granted, you're going to go from an Illinois team that's gaining momentum and just knocked off the number 1 overall defensive team in the country. So they're not coming in saying, I don't think we can win this basketball game. I hope we can play it close. That's not how it works here. But this is probably the game of the weekend now that we're looking forward to. Yeah. The atmosphere is going to be sensational from a UConn side because that place is going to be rocking to send them off into the Final Four if they can win that game. I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, to see the FanDuel Sportsbook post that 8.5-point number because I do think it's strong. But then again, is anybody going like, yeah, man, everybody covers against UConn. UConn only wins close and blows games late. That's not the case here, but that'll be interesting to see where that line actually ends up and which side the public is actually betting by the time we get to game time.
We now have the shortest price on UConn to go back-to-back that we have seen at any juncture of the NCAA tournament, really any point of this college basketball season. Look at it. Plus 120 for Dan Hurley's Huskies. Less than half of the rest of the field, less than a third to the rest of the field at this moment. More around Sweet 16 Thursday night next.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood. Say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
16 Thursday night, a recap here on this Friday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. What a game it was in the nightcap in the West region, the 1-4 matchup in the round of 16 in Los Angeles. We saw underdogs win outright in a big way in the city of Angels. The nightcap between Alabama and North Carolina. UNC, the number 1 seed in this portion of the bracket, against the team on the 4 line in the Crimson Tide. Line closed at 4.5 points in favor of UNC. The largest total we had seen in the Big Dance in more than 2 decades at 174 and a hook. Total went over. Alabama kept pace all night long. Alabama wins outright and advances to their first Elite 8 appearance since 2004, 20 years ago. 89-87, the Crimson Tide knock off North Carolina and win outright as a 4.5-point underdog.
Game is simple to me here. When your best players don't perform at a level capable, and not even playing at an average level, you're probably going to get beat against elite competition. Now, we knew Alabama is very talented coming into this basketball game, but over the season, what was the thought process behind Alabama? Yeah, they're a fun team to bet and watch because they scored a lot of points, but they don't defend anybody. And I brought up the game yesterday, 2 games, I should say, coming down the stretch against the Florida Gators, which Alabama had played in the SEC and also in the SEC tournament. Gave up 100 points both times and lost both of those games. I said to myself, I like Florida, but North Carolina is a better version of Florida. Can get up and down the court, play tempo, and has a much, much better defense than Florida had. Didn't matter last night. Why? Because R.J. Davis played 38 minutes and shot 4 of 20 from the field, which, as you pointed out, Ben, 0 of 9 from three-point range. You just give me average R.J. Davis. Hey, by the way, Donnie, he's going to shoot 9 three-point shots, going to shoot 20 times total from the field. Oh, that's at least 10 of 20. Knock down a couple triples here, gets to the free throw line, and away UNC goes. Yeah. You're not going to win basketball games when your best player comes up lame in the biggest moments here, and that's what happened. But also, credit Alabama, because as we talked about throughout this week, there was no team more bet on for this weekend's games in the Sweet 16 than North Carolina. 9 out of every 10 tickets coming on, and the line wasn't moving all that much in that direction, and rightfully so. But how about this, though, Ben? 54-46 at the break for UNC. That's a game you got to have. You blew it in the second half, and your biggest players just didn't step up.
Yeah, they certainly did not. R.J. Davis, 4 of 20, as DRS mentioned, 0 of 9 from beyond the arc. Cormac Ryan hit 5 triples. Harrison Ingram was 2 of 6. Armando Bacot ends his North Carolina career with another double-double, 19 points, 12 boards. But when your All-American guard in R.J. Davis goes 0 from deep, 0 for 9, that is not a recipe for success. And when Alabama on the other side, DRS, can control the pace and the tempo of the game, shoot 26 threes, and make 11 of them, North Carolina did not do a great job defensively running Alabama off that three-point line and confusing what Nate Oates' Crimson Tide team wants to do. We talked about that total. The reason I did not bet the under last night, and thankfully so, was because North Carolina, also one of the 45 fastest tempos in college basketball, and North Carolina against elite offenses likes to keep pace and obviously can match them score for score even when their best player goes 0 from deep. But if you want to beat Alabama, you confuse them offensively. You run them off the three-point line. You make their offensive sets slowed down and in that half-court pace. That was not the case for North Carolina last night. I thought the game stayed under. North Carolina won. Game stayed over, and Alabama victorious. Into the Elite 8 for the first time in 20 years. Rylan Griffin, 5 triples last night for the Crimson Tide. The 2 transfers, Mark Sears Jr., Aaron Estrada, 19 points, 18 points, and then Grant Nelson, the transfer from North Dakota State University in his big game as a member of the Tide. 24 points, 12 rebounds, 5 blocks, 6 of 9 from the floor, 2 of 2 from deep, 10 of 13 from the charity stripe. That is a recipe for success. That is one of the all-time tournament performances we have seen on the men's side that Grant Nelson pulled off last night against North Carolina.
Great performance. You take a look at the starting lineup. Outside of Pringle, played 19 minutes, only had 2 points. Ben, look at this. 24 points out of Nelson, 18 from Sears. Griffin had 19, and also Estrada had 19. When you get into a high-scoring tempo game, you can't just rely on one guy. And it seemed like we were looking at North Carolina relying on only one guy to do the scoring from the outside. And you even pointed out as well, Cormac Ryan was great from three-point range. You tell me before the game he's knocking down 5 triples, and I get an average performance out of R.J. Davis. That's a North Carolina win. But you still have to give credit to Alabama. One of those teams, again, comes in from the SEC, which I thought was a great conference in the regular season. But the lacking part we always think is your offense can only carry you so far. You do have tempo here, but you got to play some defense, which, as you brought up also, you take the tempo for North Carolina this season was very good, but they also played very good defense. It should have been a perfect matchup for North Carolina to escape with a victory because you weren't contrasting styles. You're basically saying we're both really talented, but one side plays defense while both plays really good offense. And the standout here was the Alabama Crimson Tide holding off. But this is also what you get, Ben. Two teams relative to the East Coast playing on the West Coast, time differences, new arena. Some of these things catch up to you. And we always talk about this as well. NCAA tournament's one game. Look, R.J. Davis would probably go back. He's going to look at this game for the rest of his life and say, my goodness, man, I wish I could just get back out there one more game against Alabama or a 3-game series. I know this would be different, but this is the reason why it's so hard to win championships in March Madness. Every game, you have to be basically perfect to continue to advance. North Carolina wasn't yesterday.
The Tar Heels end their year going over in 6 of their last 7 games. Alabama now over in 12 of its last 14. Alabama entered last night, DRS, playing 6 fellow Sweet 16 teams throughout this season. A couple in SEC play, of course, in Tennessee, and a ton of the non-conference. They were 0-6 straight up against those Sweet 16 foes. As an underdog entering last night, Alabama just 1-7 straight up, 2-6 against the spread, make that 2 outright victories. 9 games now as a dog and 3-6 against the number. So Alabama wins outright as an underdog in the nightcap in Los Angeles. In the opening game of the Sweet 16, an underdog prevailed outright as well. It's been the story for Clemson here in this big dance. They continue to be booked as the team getting points pregame, and they continue to win outright. Clemson knocks off Arizona 77-72. The Tigers win outright as a 6.5-point underdog. Pregame total of 153.5 does stay under. It's the story of the NCAA tournament for Clemson, DRS. Back in their first Elite 8 since 1980, just the second ever in Clemson program history. But it's also the story of the entire season for Brad Brownell's Tigers. They are now 9-1 against the number as an underdog this year. 7 outright victories in those 10 games as a dog, as Clemson advances to the Elite 8.
You were waiting for a run, right, from Arizona, but you take a look at the game flow here. Clemson controlled it all the way through. It wasn't like, hey, let's see if Clemson can steal another basketball game. They were the better team. Had a lot of mirrored images to going up against Baylor. You say, look, I'm going to carry to shoot the 3-point shot. You want to shoot the 3-point shot, not make it, we're going to be able to beat you because, quite frankly, you look at Clemson as a team, Ben. They don't have that one true superstar on their basketball team. Right. They also, you take a look at the numbers. All right, solid on offense, solid on defense, nothing spectacular. We came into that game yesterday going, look at Arizona, top 10 in efficiency on offense, top 10 in efficiency on defense. They just have to roll the basketball out there. They should be able to handle Clemson. But many teams have thought that here in the ACC tournament / NCAA March Madness. It's Clemson, man. It's the ACC. Yeah. It's a little bit of a down season here. 6th seed. Should be able to maybe win a game if they're lucky. When a lot of people had them getting bounced in round 1, getting upset from an 11 seed, and that didn't happen. So I love the fact that it's almost like us against the world mentality right now for Clemson. But just getting back to the ball game, you just have to play average basketball sometimes when you're the better team, Ben, and you can win. You look at Arizona from the field, 37%, not good enough. And again, we're talking about a team that's one of the top 10 teams in the country in efficiency on offense. 5 of 28 from 3-point range, 18%. Get to the free throw line, only make 68% of your free throws here. And also, sort of like UConn, you weren't on your home court, but you in your home region where the crowd was on your side, and it still didn't make up for that. That's an unbelievable performance by Clemson, who we joked about yesterday. You know, how many people are actually going to be in the stands to watch them play compared to Arizona? Boy, they were the better team all the way through, and they're advancing into the Elite 8, something I didn't see coming.
Me, neither. North Carolina ended up losing last night, but Clemson did at least clinch for the ACC. 1 berth into the Elite 8 for 22 consecutive NCAA tournaments now. The next longest conference streak is 13. So the ACC's demise was maybe a little bit premature, even though North Carolina, the 1 seed in the West region, was upset late last night in L.A. Now, that's Clemson, and we'll look at the West Regional Final between the Tigers and the Crimson Tide, a very familiar pairing of two schools in season in college basketball in just a moment. But if we go back to Arizona, 3 years now under Tommy Lloyd, who was the longtime Mark Few assistant up in Spokane at Gonzaga. Arizona has been an 88-20 basketball team in those 3 years. 88 wins, a win percentage of .815. Very few better than the Cats in the regular season. They've been a 1 seed and a 2 seed twice under Tommy Lloyd, and they have been bounced before the Elite Eight each and every trip, all 3 to the NCAA tournament, and by a seed line that was at least 5 spots less. That is a struggle for Arizona. So now we look at the West Regional bracket, where at the end of the day, Donnie, the 2 seed Arizona, who had a better price to win a title and reach the Final Four, out. Even than the 1 seed North Carolina, who is now out as well. And Alabama opens as a 3.5-point favorite for the Elite Eight in Los Angeles. Our nightcap tomorrow night, the total 164.5. We'll look at those games a little bit later on in our third hour. But it's not a great matchup for a Clemson team that lets their opponent shoot the 3. If Alabama is even average or proficient, it could be
Sears
the
Tower
Crimson Tide into the Final Four. We're back here on the early line of the second.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood. Say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball's opening day. That was yesterday as well. What a Thursday it was on the sports calendar. The Sweet 16 of the 2024 Men's NCAA Tournament, and hope springing eternal for every team all around MLB. Some of that hope is already gone. For others, it is already flourishing, including up in the Bronx, where the Yankees were actually on the road yesterday in H-Town. It's that rivalry in the American League between the Yanks and the Astros. And what a game it was in game number 1 of 162. The Astros jumped out to an early 4-0 lead after just 2 innings. But in the 5th, the Yankees responded. They scored 3 in that inning. They scored another in the 6th. And another in the 7th to take a 5-4 lead. And then Juan Soto threw out a runner for Houston in the home half of the 9th. That was the second out of the inning to preserve the Yankees' 5-4 lead. And the Bronx Bombers hold on from there. The Yanks win outright 5-4. They were actually the moneyline underdog around a plus 130 price. Victory number 1 for the New York Yankees this year.
Yeah, so the Philadelphia Phillies game got canceled yesterday. I like the under 8 runs, but the only other game that I was like, you know what, maybe you take a flyer on is the Yankees at a plus money number. And it wasn't so much that the Yankees are better than the Astros. I just looked at the pitching matchup and I thought it might be equal here, and I'll take my chances with a little bit of plus money. And just like opening day, you click on the Yankees, they're getting pounded right away, and you take a look at Cortez right away giving up runs. And also, like, I'm not a Yankees fan, and I didn't just surf Twitter for, like, Yankees Twitter, but I'm pretty sure that they wanted everybody fired by the end of inning number 2, and this season is going to be terrible. What a mess overall it is, and they pull it out. But quite frankly, this is what we see a lot in March and April, guys. You're going to have teams get out the leads. You're going to have comebacks. You're going to have bad bullpen starts. You're going to have pitchers you thought would be very good not be so good to start the season, and pitchers that you didn't think would be that good actually having solid starts because there's not a lot of film. And quite frankly, batters aren't used to the day-to-day, hey, I'm facing everybody's best stuff here, and let's get it going. Now, the good thing about yesterday, we were playing in a dome. Didn't have to worry about 50 degrees, 40 degrees, rain in the forecast. That's a nice win for the Yankees to come back. And also, you expect Juan Soto to do a lot of damage at the plate. Nobody talks about Juan Soto being a great fielder, but he made the play of the day yesterday to give the Yankees the win. That's a big boost. You didn't get great starting pitching. You still beat a team. And also, we're not talking about, boy, that's a nice comeback against the Royals on opening day or the Minnesota Twins. These are the 2 heavyweights in the odds market in the American League, and the Yanks pull down that 1-0 win here, which gives them a leg up on the Astros. Who knows if that could be big down the line for even a tiebreaker, Ben.
The Astros plus 360 to win the American League pennant. The Yankees still at that second best price, 90 cents back at plus 450. Of course, one game in 162 is not going to move the market. If there was anything slightly pessimistic for the Yanks yesterday, it was Nestor Cortez, 5 innings of work, 4 earned runs, and 5 Ks. Not what you want to see with a 7.20 ERA for a guy that is now the opening day starter because Garrett Cole is on the shelf for at least the opening month of this year. But the Yankees do get a victory. Juan Soto was great in his debut. The putout at home, of course, in the home half of the 9th. He was 1 for 3 at the dish, had an RBI single to get the scoring started for the Yanks in that 5th inning, and did take 2 walks. He's one of the most patient hitters in all of MLB. He has led the bigs in walks the last 2 years. 2 walks yesterday earned at the dish. So the Yankees win their first game this season. The same with the Baltimore Orioles, who won the American League East a season ago and were the number 1 overall seed in the AL. Baltimore blows out the Halos inside Camden Yards 11-3. Pre-game total in a bad weather day in Baltimore was 7.5. That sky's over. Mike Trout hit the first home run of the Major League Baseball season off Corbin Burns in the top of the first inning. But from that point, Corbin Burns was sensational. It was the only hit he allowed. It was the only run he gave up. Over 6 innings of work, he struck out 11.
Yeah, you want to start your, hey, let me ingratiate myself here to the Baltimore fan base and let you know that I am a true ace here, and I should be the favorite in the clubhouse to open the season to win the AL Cy Young Award. That was an unbelievable performance, because the one thing we don't truly know is, even with power pitchers, how long is that leash going to be? And quite frankly, he was efficient yesterday. You tell me 11 strikeouts, I'm usually telling you, Ben, 105 to 110 pitches here. Only 82 pitches through 6 innings. He was tremendous. And also, when you start the season, you like to get off on the right foot. The first inning, you give up a bomb to Mike Trout. You're like, come on, man. Like, I want to at least get through the first inning and then see what I can do. But the way that he was able to shut down that Angels lineup was really impressive. Now, the question is, how good is that Angels lineup really, and what type of team are they going to have? But Mike Trout getting a base hit, and no other starter in that lineup got a base hit for the Angels yesterday as they finished with 2 total hits. This is a sign of the times here. We expected Baltimore to be a very competitive team, and as Ben pointed out already, look, it's 162 games. Things are going to change.
Yeah.
But I don't think too many people are surprised that the Angels got hammered on opening day, and the opening day starter was Sandoval on the mound. And what else do you have to look forward to? I don't know, but it's certainly not that. But also, I told you yesterday, take that sneaky look maybe at Mike Trout at a 20-1 price to be MVP. He's on pace, Ben, for 162 home runs. That should get it done.
That he is. Yeah, if he is traded to another American League team, then yes, I would say Mike Trout could win that MVP award. Big day for Santander, for the Baltimore Orioles, 4 RBIs. Yeah. They picked up Corbin Burns very quickly, DRS. They played 2 in the home half of the first, added 2 more on in the home half of the second. Baltimore bounced back early. They were a minus 172 home money line favorite. They make good on that number. Now we go to another American League East divisional matchup. At the Trop in Tampa, it was the road team down from Canada that got the victory. The Blue Jays knock off the Rays 8-2. Zach Eflin on the bump for Tampa gave up 6 earned runs in 5 2/3 innings of work. Jose Barrios on the other side, only 2 earned runs over 6 innings of work as the Blue Jays win 8-2 to knock off their divisional rivals in their opening game of the year. The Blue Jays booked as the underdog. They cashed that plus money ticket.
Yeah, exactly. Take a look at Springer there grabbing an RBI. Take a look at Vladdy Jr. grabbing an RBI. Also, both of those RBIs come from home runs here. We talked about it last year. That power shortage for Toronto, which you thought they would explode. They even moved the fences in up there in Toronto, but didn't pay dividends. And one of the tougher ballparks, seemingly, to hit home runs is down in Tampa. Didn't have any problems with that. They had 3 total home runs throughout that lineup. But also, you take a look at Eflin. Like, this wasn't one of those games like Nestor Cortez starts and gives up 4 runs over the first 2 innings. This game was 1-1 after 5 innings, and then it just exploded in the top of the 6th inning with 5 runs for Toronto, and that was how it got done. Yesterday, I believe Tampa closed this game as a favorite, so a nice win on the road for the Toronto Blue Jays, playing 8 runs in a tough environment there. Good win, great start, and also, you like to see your big boppers, Ben, get off to it, because like you go 2 or 3 games, 4 games in, don't have that home run, I'm waiting around. You get one opening day, man, you feel like you're going to have a great season.
Yeah, it's a really good point, DRS, and when you look up and down the offensive lineup for Toronto, that's exactly what they had yesterday. George Springer in the leadoff spot, a home run, an RBI. Bo Bichette, 2 hits, 2 ribbies in the game. Vladdy Jr. had a home run as well. Kevin Biggio at the end of the lineup in the 9-hole. He also had a home run and an RBI in that baseball game. A big victory for the Toronto Blue Jays outright in their opener. A controversial game between the Rangers and the Cubs yesterday at the reigning World Series champs' home debut in 2024, officially beginning their title defense. The Rangers do win in extras 4-3 over the Cubs. A couple of interesting calls at home plate made, but the Rangers do win in the bottom of the 10th. They tied it in the bottom of the 9th, those late-game heroics, and then in the bottom of the 10th, it was Jonah Heim, an RBI single that scored Josh Young. Texas victorious in its first game as the reigning World Series champs, 4-3 in extras over the Cubbies.
Yeah, and Steele goes down. It looks like a hamstring injury, which is always tough for a pitcher here, trying to grab a baseball and flip it over to first base. Went down in some pain. But you're right. This is what we talk about where you try to get instant replay correct in this game, and I guess it was a play you could not review, but it was a clear foul ball that allowed a run to score, and you saw the catcher. He's basically like, look, Heim, what's going on here? Like, you didn't hear that? I watched it here. Can't we just take a quick review? And sometimes you could tell, Ben, you see the foul balls like into the mid. It's like, ooh, that's close. I don't know if that happened. The ball changed directions. It got away from the catcher who knew it immediately. And usually you can tell if he knew that was a swing and miss, you go right after the baseball. It was a foul. So he's like, yeah, it was foul. Give me another baseball, throw it to the pitcher, and let's get going here. And a run ends up scoring there. That was a tough scene overall. But again, it was rectified in extra innings because the Texas Rangers still end up winning that game 4-3 over the Cubs.
Tom Vecchio gave you one of his favorite season-long props, Adolis Garcia, over 31.5 home runs. He had one yesterday for Texas, a good start for one of the biggest boppers in that Rangers lineup. Texas closed as a slight favorite. Nathan Eovaldi got the start for the Rangers, minus 118 on the money line, as DRS mentioned. Justin Steele did exit the game early. He was sensational a year ago as the ace of the staff now for Craig Counsell in his Cubbies debut. Not a good scene for Chicago. Any updates on that injury, we will bring you later on. Game number 3 of the year for the LA Dodgers, but their home debut inside Chavez Ravine at Dodger Stadium in downtown LA yesterday. And it was a great debut at home. Tyler Glasnow in his second start of the year gets his first victory in a Dodgers uniform as the Dodgers score 7. They win 7-1. They were the heftiest favorite of opening day, minus 245 on that money line. Get used to seeing that price, but the Dodgers make good on it.
Told you yesterday, too, taking a look at this game overall, like Michael is going up against that Dodgers lineup. It's set up really well. Now, granted, it doesn't set up really well technically in 2024 because we were using 2023 statistics. But overall, I told you yesterday my best bet was Ohtani to get an RBI at plus 110. He was 2 for 3 in that game, which included a double, but did not get an RBI. And here's what I say to myself. Sometimes you just ask for opportunities. You say, Donnie, I'm going to give you a hint in this game. Mookie Betts is going to be on base and Ohtani's going to double. Sign me up. Well, sign me up for Mookie Betts to be held at third base and away that goes. But Ohtani, again, hitting 385 on the early season. I know it's only through 2 games, or 3 games for them, but look at Mookie Betts. Gets a home run in that game, batting average 636. This team is so stacked from top to bottom that you watch that score play out and you're like, yeah, this is about right. And also jumping on the Cardinals right away, 5-0 after inning number 3. Good luck beating the Dodgers when you're spotting them multiple runs right off the bat.
And it was all those guys coming out to play early. Shohei Ohtani was on base a ton. Mookie Betts was on base often. 1 of 2 yesterday, scored 3 runs, drew a walk, hit a home run in the third that led to his only RBI. And Freddie Freeman, 2 for 3, scored 2 runs as well. Also hit his own home run in that third inning. And Freddie Freeman, 3 ribbies yesterday for LA. That is a sure perfect start for Los Angeles. Speaking of the National League West, by the way, quickly a shout out to the Arizona Diamondbacks at home, the reigning NL pennant winners. They score 16 runs in the game and knock off the Rockies 16-1. Zach Gallen was great. 5 innings of work, 1 earned run, only 3 hits. But the D-backs DRS, who scored 14 in the third, 2 in the opening inning for all 16 in their first 3 frames. Keep an eye on Arizona, the reigning National League pennant winners, for a reason.
Yeah, don't forget about us is basically what they said from game number 1 this year. And also, I believe it was the first 10-run inning on opening day from maybe 1997 or so. So it's been a while since that happened. But if you said there was one team that got beat by 15 runs on opening day, there's only a few chances or choices that you would have, and certainly the Colorado Rockies. This is supposed to happen at home in Colorado. It's like, hey, man, it's easy to hit here. The Diamondbacks opening up a can early. That's impressive to open the season. Not a great start for those Rockies. Plenty of time, boys. Plenty of time.
You'd probably guess the Rockies or the A's. Well, Oakland in its home debut lost 8-0 against the Guardians, and Shane Bieber went shutout work and had 11 strikeouts against the Athletics. We round out this opening hour. Up next.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood. Say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust me, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live. Prime time.
Back-to-back just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live. Overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Quickly, we go around the association here to end out this opening hour live on a Friday on the early line on SportsGrid. 10 games or less for every club around the association in this 82-game regular season. Postseason positioning, front and center. The Celtics are going to be the 1 seed in the East, but it's a good thing they're not playing their playoff series in Atlanta, where 2 times over the last 4 days this week, the Celtics have lost as a double-digit favorite outright to the Hawks. On Monday night, Atlanta was down 30 points in the opening half. They came all the way back to beat Boston as an 11.5-point underdog. Last night, the C's booked as a 16.5-point road favorite. Atlanta wins in overtime. First, Bogdanovic hits a game-tying 3 with less than 30 seconds in regulation. And DeJounte Murray went off last night. He had 44 points, including the game winner in the final second in overtime. As Atlanta wins 123-122, again, outright as a 16.5-point dog.
Yeah, congratulations, contrarians. You're like, yeah, they can do it again. Where most people like myself, like, hell, man, watch the Celtics come out and bust these dudes up in the first quarter. Yeah, they busted them up by 1 point and ended up losing the game overall by 1 point. So I don't care what side you were backing for Boston, you lost all the way around. That's crazy because you thought the focus would have been there right out of the gate, but apparently hanging out in Atlanta, relaxing here, taking back-to-back losses to the Hawks without their best player. Tough scene, Boston.
Listen, the Celtics have already clinched the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Even with the 2 straight losses to Atlanta, they still have an 11-game advantage over Milwaukee. Why? Because the Bucks lost last night on the road in New Orleans as well. Milwaukee closed as a slight road favorite. The Pels DRS this year as an underdog outright, 15-13. Straight up, they win 107-100.
Yeah, you trust the Boston Celtics, even though they lost back-to-back games versus Atlanta. I told you yesterday, I was like, I think this is a Pelicans night. I just don't trust the Bucks the way they're playing. And also, what are they playing for down the stretch? Certainly not the number 1 overall seed. You're going to get some of these efforts here down the stretch out of Milwaukee.
Zion Williamson, 28 points for the Pels. A big one for them in the Western Conference standings. Sweet 16 previews when hour 2 starts in less than a minute.